Hi, everyone. Welcome to B2B Tonight. I'm your host, Rishi Mathur. With me is Ryan O'Hara. He's really good looking.
I'm okay, but Rishi is the real star. It's all about him. My name sucks. It's just so boring.
What? Wait a minute.
Ryan, ugh.
All right, for people that don't know, I'm really Ryan O'Hara. That's Rishi over there, that dumpster pile of a human being.
Oh, man. I'm going to sue you one day.
Let's get to today's show. So I'm pretty excited about this. This guest is someone that I have looked up to for many years. If you are a sales leader and you have not read Predictable Revenue, shame on you. Everybody pretty much has read it at some point. It's been called the Bible of Sales for Silicon Valley. He recently wrote a book with Jason Lemkin that we're going to talk about a little bit on this episode, hopefully. But we have Aaron Ross on today. Before we jump into Aaron Ross, though, Rishi, I want to let you know there's been some interesting things going on in the world at this point. Recently, I had to go to the Hampstead office to check things out a little bit. I wanted to see how the situation is. We have an office in Hampstead, New Hampshire. It's like really remote and off the grid in New Hampshire. But we haven't been there since March. And so like one day we obscurely decided there was an outbreak in the next town for COVID. And we decided, let's pull the plug. Let's stop having people come into work. So everybody kind of just came in one last day, grabbed all their stuff that they needed, office equipment if they wanted to borrow it, and brought it home. And I thought it'd be cool to go check out the office after not being there for 3 months. Let's take a look, shall we?
Hello, everyone. Ryan O'Hara here. We're going to go investigate the office. We haven't been here since March 6, 2020 due to COVID-19. This is our first time looking at the office and seeing what we got. Here we are in the darkness. All these papers and bills. We had a lot of water obviously get delivered, which is a little strange. It's kind of dark in here. Let's turn on the lights. Uh-oh. Somebody forgot to pay the electric bill. I'll be right back. And we're back. And holy hell, is it hot in here. It's funny, I guess we didn't turn the heat off. We're going to look at the office here. We actually set up a bunch of office chairs for our new intern team, and then they ended up having to work from home. It's really sad. Let's go check out Sabrina's desk. Oh, this is tragic. She had Samoa Girl Scout cookies, and they're open, and they went to waste. This is so tragic. Girl Scout cookies haven't been on sale for months. Let's go check out upstairs. Really curious to see how things have changed since March up here. All right, let's go check out the kitchen. So, I'm a little terrified to open this fridge because the electricity's been out. Let's hopefully there's no food in it and it's empty. This is the grossest thing I've ever seen. Hey, Hot Pockets. You want a Hot Pocket?
Nope.
I wouldn't either. Jeremy's literally been in a meeting since March. The poor prospect is just dying to get off the phone, but he won't get up. He doesn't know any of this stuff has happened. Look at that view out there. Remember, you could look out there at the sea and wonder what kind of man you are. They say sometimes that in the afterlife, man comes back as a weathering storm, there to punish people for the things they've done. It's also sometimes a nice place for sunsets. Let's check out the SDR office. Yep, no one's been here since March. Prior to COVID, before we shut down the office, I ordered a new dartboard. And you can see that they failed to put it up on the wall several times. They might be great at selling, but these guys are not very good at hanging dartboards. Bullseye. You know what makes me really sad? And I'm not looking forward to it? Coming back to work and having John Mosley here. What kind of asshole wins a fantasy football league, then prints out his own banner and hangs it on his wall at his office? It's Bush League, Mosley. It's Bush League. I walk a lonely road on the boulevard of broken dreams. Did I turn the heat off? I think I did. I'm fine.
forget to pay the electric bill?
Listen, Rishi, I am a responsible.
You're our leader. You should be on top of this.
I am a responsible human being with lots of responsibilities. No one's mindset was right back then. We didn't know what was going to happen. Let's get to it. So this next guest probably needs no introduction. He co-authored Predictable Revenue. He recently wrote a book, Impossible to Inevitable, with Jason Lumpkin from SaaStr fame. I'm a big fan of Jason too. He has helped sales teams from Salesforce, Twilio, Zora. You go down the list. This guy's the banger of bangers. Live from Edinburgh, Scotland. Pronounced
I think
correct.
Edinburgh. I don't know. It's something like Edinburgh.
It's like a Scottish surfer. What's Edinburgh? What's going on, Edinburgh? I think I'm saying it right. Anyway, he's also co-founder and co-CEO of PredictableRevenue.com. Everyone say hi to Aaron Ross.
Woo!
Hi. Yeah.
Doesn't it feel weird doing that? I'm really excited. I have to clear the air about something for people that are watching this. I was once on your podcast. I was talking about this with these before you hopped on. I was once on your podcast, and when I did the podcast episode, I was in my office, and the AC was broken. It was like 90 degrees outside, and I remember I thought that the podcast was only going to be audio, and I was just wearing a white T-shirt with sweat and like super gross, dirty pit stains and stuff, and like. A couple weeks later, I saw a post of the podcast when it was done and realized that the video was used for the podcast. I just want to let you know I don't normally look like I rolled out of bed. Like I usually would normally be nicer. It's just our air conditioning was broken.
Okay. I mean, if you say so. But, but also just keep in mind, I don't know for sure, but I would imagine that the number of people who actually watch the videos of podcasts is probably 10% of, or at least maybe a lot of business podcasts is probably like a 10th of the actual people who listen. So your reputation, I'm sure, is intact for most of the world.
There's the 10% people that saw it probably are terribly disappointed. So today for a topic, that's a great transition, but today for a topic, we're going to talk to Aaron about trying to get the most out of your sales reps. I think that there's a huge problem. These are some stats that I've looked up before the show that are crazy. According to Salesforce, less than 58% of reps will actually hit quota this year. Meaning that, and that's even pre-pandemic, pre-world shutdown, economic shutdown stuff.
Yeah.
There's a huge chunk of reps that will miss quota. They won't be great at their jobs. Some of them might be out of jobs. The average tenure for a sales rep is 8 months from what I've heard. You start doing all this math out. There's got to be a reason that a lot of reps miss. And it can't just be that they don't want to work hard or they're lazy. It could be something with motivation. And I kind of want to dive into that as a big topic for today.
Sure. That's a great one. I mean, a couple other stats. I know it's not this year, but in the past, studies have shown that that attrition on a sales team, a B2B sales team in regular years, this year is obviously not regular. It's 27%. So it means more than a quarter of your team quits or is fired over the whole year. So if Salesforce, I don't know if they have 3,000 reps, I'm sure they have multiple thousands. If that holds true, and I think it does for them, they'd be, turning over almost 1,000 reps a year. And then another stat I saw just a few days ago was that 41% of people are feeling burned out now with the pandemic. And I don't know what it was before. Actually, that'd be curious to see. Pre-pandemic, it was less. Maybe it was more, and it's gone down. But I think they were trying to say it's more. That even with people working at home, there's more burnout. But the point is, a lot of people, and not a surprise, like people struggle. Salespeople struggle, and so there's a lot of reasons for it. So, by the way, there's a lot of structural reasons for that, like quotas are too high and you don't specialize sales enough, and et cetera, et cetera. But I think let's start with how what I see, even in my own company, talking to people, is a lot of people, and I don't know if it's a third. I'm just going to pick the number a third because I kind of feel like it's a third of our company. A lot of people are really dispirited right now, more than ever. There's a lot going on in the world. And this was before the race riots and going on. So, and there's a lot of reasons. Like there's not one, right? All the change for this financial pressures, people trying to work from home. Some love it, some don't. There's just a lot of stuff. But just say a third of people are feeling anxious, scared, uncertain, dispirited, unmotivated, unenthusiastic. And it's like a struggle to get to the job and put on to do it.
So you mentioned a lot. One of the problems that you see a lot of companies do is they set up things where quota's too high. Do you think companies should be adjusting their quota because of what's going on right now too?
A lot of companies for sure should be. So again, if you kind of bucket, there's, obviously a lot of companies that have hit the wall and they're dead the water. Okay. And there's a lot of companies that are doing better, right? They got a tailwind. And so in that case, actually quotas are probably, maybe they stay the same, maybe they go up, we don't know. And there's a lot of companies kind of in that middle ground where they are impacted, and it might be a little bit, it might be a lot. So maybe there's a 20% reduction, maybe there's a 50% reduction. So, I think what has to happen, and it's been a couple months, it kind of depends on the company, but if you're still being affected by the COVID situation sort of with sales and whatever's going on in the world, and you're keeping the quotas from last year or whatever you set up for 2020 as your quota, and that's just doesn't help anybody. And I understand that especially bigger companies have so much pressure to maintain the number for the year until the last minute, and then you miss. But if you have a quota that's high and just completely unrealistic, because again, the market you're in, and again, maybe even in regular times, 30% of reps, I think, miss quota, and that's even too high. And maybe that just seems really high. To me, the right stat is less than 10% of your reps should churn per year.
So
not 30%.
Sorry about that. So obviously there's a lot of things that can cause it, but why do you think reps miss quota? Is it caused by the stress you're talking about?
I think these days, again, there's a mix. One of the most common reasons is because quotas haven't been basically redone from scratch, and they should be. And that could be activity quotas, that could be actual sales quotas, SDR quotas. For a lot of companies, you kind of need to throw away your old quotas and just almost take a week to week or bi-week to bi-week or maybe month to month now. Look at what were we able to accomplish last month? What can we accomplish? What do we hope we can accomplish next month? And because the surprises aren't done with the whole pandemic.
Right.
There's some loosening. Oh, shocker. The virus spiked again. Who knows what's going to happen? So you just have to have a much more agile mindset. And I get it, if you're especially like a public company, there's a lot of reasons about a company where there's so much pressure, like they feel like they need the illusion. It's the illusion of predictability. There's so much pressure against people who'd say, hey, you know what? I kind of need to do this month by month. There's so many forces against that. And it takes a lot of courage at every level to say, you know what? That's just not the case of the world in our business. We just have to kind of have some goals, but not hold them lightly and be ready for things to change as we go right now.
I was really excited, Aaron, to see that you wrote a book with Jason Lepkin. Cause I've been a big SaaStr follower for years. I probably was drinking from a sippy cup with apple slices as a little kid reading SaaStr at one point.
Wait, you're drinking apple slices from a sippy cup?
I screwed up the joke, Rishi. All right. There's no reason to be like this. But no, I've been reading SaaStr for a long time and stuff. And I was really excited to see you did something, because it's like my two people coming together and making something. You talk about running sales teams kind of agilely, almost like you're doing sprints in 2-week periods of time and looking at stuff. I think that's kind of a refreshing and new idea. How do you do that? What's a good way to do that? Do you just look at what happened the past 2 weeks, or how do you do it actually?
Yeah, well, and when you have special situations like this, and this could actually be, so basically you're in a tremendous amount of turmoil, or you haven't had predictability yet, maybe you're a startup, and you don't have a track record. And like I said, I know there's a lot of teams that were looking at metrics, again, SDR teams or sales teams kind of week by week, especially when things were really going down a couple months ago with the lockdowns and everyone going from home. I know Pete Crosby's a well-known CRO in the UK, and same thing he says and he's not active today, but he said, I would look at things week by week. What happened last week? What do we think we can do next week? And almost recreate your goals and the way you might even comp people week by week until there's a little bit more regularity. Even right now, we have this kind of moment, and we don't know how long it'll last. And currently it's, early-ish June 2020, where there's kind of a bit more routine. Right? There's sales have been picking up. We see it in our business. We hear it from people. Is that going to last? No one knows. So I think it's a lot of times it's just being, again, having a goal, but that's not necessarily and maybe not having a quota. And really the goal is when you don't have predictability yet, kind of just trying things, having week by week. And really the main goal is learning. Whether you hit the number or not, it's like, hey, did we learn something that didn't work? Did we learn something that did work? So we have a little more insight into what to do next. And that's like the faster you can learn, the faster you can get to this place of being more capable and be able to hit or exceed your goals.
It's almost like what you're doing. If your end all goal is to have predictable revenue from your sales team, because things are so unpredictable right now, you decrease the forecasting to be inaccurate and stuff by shortening that period that you're predicting what's going to happen. It's a lot easier to figure out what's going to happen a week from now versus what's going to happen 3 weeks from now. I think that's a great point.
Yeah. Then over time, let me show you. I think I can fix my audio here. I just realized over time, you get some more insights and some more of a track record, and you can get to be more predictable. And, hopefully that'll last for a while. And like we've just seen, again, this illusion, sometimes predictability is an illusion. Ultimately, having a predictable system is not the main thing that makes you successful. The main thing that ultimately makes someone successful, I believe, or one of them, is having the confidence to be able to meet challenges head on, no matter what they are. All right, because especially as an entrepreneur. And I saw someone, I don't remember the name, but someone said he started a company, and at first it was exciting, and then every day felt like he was getting punched in the face. All right, and whether you're a parent or an entrepreneur, I think about all this, the CEOs and boards of companies who basically gone out of business the last few months, including public companies. Basically being able, the punches are coming, the good times come, the punches come. You got to be able to roll with both of them. Like that's really even more fundamental than having predictable systems. We can call it like predictable confidence.
Not to freak people out too. I think one of the things that people aren't thinking about is, there might be things that are almost getting canceled right now. Like retailers, a couple of them are going out of business. Travel companies are having a lot of trouble with stuff, but there's actually a huge domino effect that happens with all these things. When travel companies don't meet their goals that they're hitting, they can't pay their debts off, which impacts banks, which means banks are less likely to give loans out to other companies that might need there's all these complicated things happening in the economy right now that aren't just going to undo themselves when all this stuff's over either, or if it ever ends. Yeah,
and we're still in a false, the real recession hasn't hit yet because governments are still propping up, payrolls and companies. And that's not, we'll see how long that lasts. When that stops, we'll see. But that we have, I think it's a false sense of security right now.
So I want to talk
both on the health and lockdown front. Like financially, it's for the economy is also on the health and lockdown front.
So I wanted to talk to you a little bit about, we're kind of trying to dive into something here that I heard that was super profound from you. We want to learn a little bit more about what's separating the reps that do well. And that's something that I've heard you've been doing a lot of research and learning about right now. What makes a rep do a lot better at selling versus another rep? Is it besides the system? Who goes to who makes it through? And you obviously know there's lots of sales methodology that's out there. There's people that do the challenger sale. There's people that have different roles that are spin. You go down the whole list of all these training methodologies and stuff. One thing that I think a lot of them don't necessarily look at is personality traits and being enabled in a certain way. What are the good reps doing? What are the things that you're noticing from being on the beat and keeping an eye on what's going on right now?
Well, I think there's something the good and best reps have always done, but it's going to be more important than ever. Is it's basically having the confidence to not be dependent on copycat success and copycat techniques. So let's step back for a second. The world is more connected than ever. That means if a technique works, now, this could be in marketing as well as sales, but to say sales, it gets copied, it gets shared faster than ever. And, people learn from that faster than ever and they try it faster than ever. So I don't use this. It's not copycat in a bad way. It's just good ideas spread faster. And the faster a good idea spreads, the faster it stops working well. Because once everyone's doing a good idea, it stops being a good idea. Because everyone's zigging, and then you got to zag someplace else. And I know so many people in companies are relying on this. Well, just tell me what template I should send. Like, just tell me what to do. Because everyone, again, is oftentimes like stressed, busy. They don't have a lot of mental energy to sit and like figure things out. And so there's a lot of copying from, let's say, email templates or LinkedIn techniques. So again, that's copycat success. I wouldn't say it's the beginning of the end of it. I mean, I think this is a good soundbite, but copycat success will never stop. What it means is the real reps that are going to be more successful have the confidence to try their own things. And I would say even find their own voice. Right. So I call it unique genius. Right? Everyone's got a signal. Everyone's got things they believe in, a message, a medium, a way they want to like make a difference in the world, things they feel excited about, the way they want to communicate. Clearly I can't communicate. The way they want to communicate to others. And like, again, think about, founders, like, I'm trying to think of actually this, like Gary, I mean, easy one's Gary Vee, right?
Yeah.
Like he's out there. He has things he cares about. He's willing to say them. He has these channels. He's able to express himself fully, in the world, and he's been successful for it. And like everyone has the potential to do something like that, but too many sales reps. And again, I don't know if it's 80%. It's most, and this is true of most people too. But most sales reps are at work. They're just kind of like sales. It's almost like they're all too similar, right? Kind of, they're all doing the same sequences and thinking the same thoughts and saying the same things and afraid to stray out of the box. And everyone who's in that box, I guarantee, like everyone is a unique genius. Everyone has the ability to bring their own flavor of topic and conversation to what they're doing. If I'm a sales rep, it might be the words I use in an email. It might be kind of like adding a picture. It might be adding a certain emoji. It might be actually being more comfortable with video. It might be more comfortable with LinkedIn. It might be more comfortable talking. I mean, there's so many ways, or maybe bringing other ways I want to communicate to people, like art or song or poetry or books. So I'll give you an example. Obviously for me, in writing Predictable Revenue and Impossible, there's art in those books. You go back and look at it. The covers, for example, like I did that art, and that was just me messing around, feeling like, you know what, I kind of like, this is kind of fun. Sure, I'll just put it in, and it was over a few years. Like I want to add it to the books just because I wanted to. And there's people who've done now, like, rap songs or music videos on, let's say, LinkedIn, right? Mixing like Nick Meta from Gainsight, so I'm like spacing for a second, has done that and having fun and kind of mixing mediums and messages into things that are different. So in other words, when everyone's copying the same email template, it's going to stop working. So what can you do as a rep, as a person, and as a company? I think it applies too, but especially as a single salesperson, to kind of like tap into really like writing from the heart and communicating from the heart. Like if you believe in your product, like what are the words you would say and how would you say them? And not just kind of copying the templates everyone else is doing. So that's one version. That's like probably one expression of unique genius. I think it's incredibly important to sales reps today. And it's going to be 10 times as important over the coming years as everything gets noisier and noisier and noisier, is because that's where the world's going.
I talk about this a lot with people when we look at cold emails and help them. Like when you write a cold email, if Jim and Jill are both on your team writing cold emails to people, they should be very different and have their fingerprints all over it. If they're doing cold calls, the way that Jill does something and the way that Jim says something should be different because their personalities are different. They have different upbringings, different experiences, different people that they know. And you can, a big part of that is trying to figure out how to do that exactly.
Yeah, and sure. Sorry, Rishi.
Oh, no worries. I was going to ask both you guys a question actually on top of that. So Mr. Ryan and Sir Aaron, how do you get your reps to act like themselves? You talk about us finding your voice and stuff. How does that happen? Like it takes a while for that. And like, how can you understand like what is your voice and how to constantly keep hitting it? Because sometimes you do it by accident. Yeah.
And sorry, I'm a Lord, not a Sir here in Scotland.
Oh, sorry about that. Lord.
Get it right, Rishi. Get it right.
Actually, funny enough, actually years ago, I went online and for like $50 got titles for myself and my wife as Scottish Lord and Lady. And so we bought like a square foot of land someplace in Scotland. We know we live here. So I actually have like pieces of paper of official Scottish Lord. So, fun fact. You can, I don't remember the website, but you Google it, you can find it. Maybe it was $60. I don't know. So, okay, well, back to the question. So, great question. All right, what do I do? How do I start? So, I'd spent a lot of time on this actually 10 years ago. I created a whole unique genius set of like thinking and even like a coaching program. And I put that on the shelf a long time ago because when I got married and I had to make a lot more money to support a family, my niche at that time and has been outbound prospecting, predictable revenue. And I'm coming back to it. So I got to come back and rethink this because now I get 10 years of experience in living it myself. But some things that are important are, first of all, there's no, so here's like a simple way to start. In fact, this might be the simplest in our company. Now let's go back to another kind of, I call it version of unique genius. We started by talking about dispirited sales reps. Well, there's dispirited people everywhere, but let's talk about dispirited sales reps. Okay, in our company, I was like, well, I know that lots of people are stressed and uncertain. And I know that something that people can do, because I've seen this before, is if they take a project or a passion and to start to make some progress on it, whatever that is, doesn't matter if it's at home, work, personal, it's something they care about. And I know that this also is the best time ever to recreate yourself, right? More disruption. We have this reset button that's been hit on how you want to work, when you want to work, from where. So it's a blank page. So again, never been a better time to write the book you've had. It's never been a better time to learn the instrument you want to do, or whatever it is that you feel important. Because we all have ideas that have been on the shelf. Like you just can't do them all. For me, I've been doing more guitar and more walks and a little more drawing. I even wrote a little short story. It's like a little bit, baby steps. And by the way, baby steps are really magic here, as we'll get to. So in the company, I sent an email out saying, hey, I know everyone, one thing that I want to just help encourage people to do is to take ideas you've got on the shelf and passions and like get some traction with them. So every week we've been having a call, or now we're doing it 3 weeks a month. We're still testing the format, and I'll describe them to you because if you want to try it or someone here listens to them. I'd love to try to find some kits that people can do it, but it's really simple. Is you get on a call, and I think the best size is probably like 5 to 12 people. I mean, you could have less or more. Too many people, it's harder. I think there's a magic number like 8 to 12-ish. But people go around, maybe talk a bit about themselves, but especially like what is the thing they want to make progress on. And there's people, so like who want to do, again, write stories. We've had people who want to write music, write a sales book, become more of a marketing influencer, become more of a fitness influencer, right? Just the whole gamut. So everyone shares that. And then, so first of all, what happens is they get a lot of encouragement and acceptance first, because you'll see like people are so like, I don't know, can I do this? And they hear a bunch of people saying, yeah, like I want to see that, because it's true. Like we want to see this come out of people. And then they talk about, it's also like, what's the next step they could do over the next day or week? Like what's just a baby step they can take? And sort of like talking publicly about taking a step creates more accountability and more possibility, and more makes it more real. And so people start to like find someone like wrote their first blog post, or I mean, more than one person, and they were great. And so what you see is they're like talk about these personal things. They find acceptance. They find that there's some traction, and like it really created so much this like momentum and energy and inspiration for people who are doing this. Now, this comes and goes because life is a roller coaster, and that's one step. You got to do this, week after week or month after month, and people will fall off and people will come back on. But that's something that not only brought more life to kind of the sale, like employees into the sales team, enthusiasm, and it's like helping people tap into that unique set of attributes, interests, and messages and mediums that they want to communicate through. Again, whether that's music, art. Some people want to do a painting. It's also kind of create more connection in the company. So one thing I've seen is that all the Zoom meetings you kind of end up feeling kind of flat with people, because you're not getting the same personal details and stories as if you're hanging out with them in person. And this is at least one way where I've seen a recreation of more connection across, like real connection across people, where they really care about each other and they're supporting each other. So in other words, anytime you can take one of your interests or passions, or maybe have a whisper, with this kind of like, these little things in your mind or your heart that you ignore because they're not practical. Like you want to start a nonprofit, or you want to travel, or you want to quit your job, or you want to become an artist. Like for me, maybe this like creating music, and I've never ever thought about that, but like, I don't know. I mean, I'm not an engineer. I know engineering, and I've never thought of myself as a musician, but I guess I could be. I'm not sure if I want to be yet, but like, I never even considered it. But now I'm like, I don't know. So that's a start. Like interests and passions that resonate with you. So when you are talking on the phone with someone, when you're communicating via email or LinkedIn, or whether it's posting on LinkedIn or a message, that is going to start to come out with practice. The confidence of being able to know what you have is valuable, the way you want to share it's valuable, that people are going to care about it, and to try it and to keep trying it, because it takes a lot of practice to kind of find that signal that you can tune into, your own personal radio signal, and communicate it with confidence. So that was a long answer to the question, but that's...
I love it, man. This is exactly what I want people to hear, and it's better coming from you than from me.
I don't know, man. I don't know.
I come from a school of thought that when you're selling to extraordinary people, and extraordinary people want to be reached out to by other extraordinary people. And the best way to do that is by being be unique, be different, do some stuff that's into you. I mean, this whole show that we're doing, this is our 5th or 6th episode that we've done now. I think it's our 6th one. This all started because I hate webinars. Like, I'm tired of them. I'm tired of being on slide dumps with people and watching them. And I was thinking, I've asked Rishi, Rishi's a comedian when he's not working, and we hired him as a content guy. And I literally thought, I hired Rishi last year trying to get this thing off the ground, and COVID finally gave us the excuse to finally do it. Like, you're hitting the nail on the head. Right now is the time to innovate and try experiments and put passion into it. I want to do stuff that's blending like comedy with business. I want to make people entertained. Last week we did an episode, or 2 weeks ago we did an episode with Casey Jones, and in the episode we did a bit called Sales the Musical, where we did like a trailer for a fake musical being made about sales. And I make music. I literally use that guitar back there and just tracked a bunch of tracks. I'm terrible at singing, but we just made a bunch of songs that were like, what would a musical sound like if someone made a musical about sales? And I did it because I want to splice in my fun music making self into my work life.
Yeah, that's a great example. And I think it's easy to get discouraged because you might do that one time and maybe it works out. Like, you might have fun with it, hopefully, but then maybe you don't get kind of the results. And we're so attached to wanting results. A lot of the point of the early days is just tuning into what feels good and making some progress, even little baby steps. How often do we not take any step at all because we just don't, it's too big? I mean, it's talking about, look about racism, and people are like, hey, how do you change society? And then it's so easy to feel well, I can't it's just too big a problem, versus what's any small step you can take. So same thing here. Just the thing is, it can take steps. It can take years to really, who knows how long it takes. Everyone's different, but you can't say it's going to take me X months or X years. What you can say is, this is something I really care about. And this, honestly, just because I care about it, I don't have to justify it. I just want to do it, and I'm going to do it. And if I keep doing it, some breakthroughs will happen at some point. And I know that that's true. Even, and especially in the early days when you're not seeing any results from it, and people may not like it, you just got to keep going. I see this in my wife and a lot of other creators. She's been writing as a playwright for a while, and she's had her struggles. She has great ideas, and she's still learning. And she's done plays, and she's got great ideas. And I can tell it's just a question of when, not if, she hits the kind of success that she wants to hit. She's already been successful by any other standard, but in her mind, her bar is high. And I feel like there's a lot of people that you should listen to. One thing I've learned, because I'm coming on 50, and there's a lot of stuff I haven't learned yet, but one thing I have learned is that there's when I was younger, there's things I felt in my heart or my gut or my body or whatever you want to call it, that I just kind of felt were going to be true. I would end up getting married. I didn't really have strong feelings about kids, honestly. That's been a whole surprise to me, this big family.
Yeah.
Or adoption. That was a whole nother surprise. But I always felt like I'd make a lot of money. That was just going to happen. I felt like I'd be successful. That was just going to happen. And I see this, I didn't know when. I see this in my teenage daughter. She's always believed since she was young she was going to be famous and make money. And I'm like, yeah, I see that. And my wife, I see that she just has this belief that she's going to be a famous kind of like writer. And it's not about being famous. That's not. But I think what happens is like, that's probably true. I kind of believe, I call it these like echoes from the future, that there's something, and whether you believe in time or that some part of you knows that there's something's going to happen in your life, and you can't tell at all how, when, or where. That's impossible. But like, trust yourself. You feel like something is important to you, like that you need to go someplace, or you need to be something, or pick up something. Like, listen to that. And again, when we get into this, like, why hasn't it happened yet? That's when we shoot ourselves in the foot. Again, it's going to happen. I don't know when. It's when, not if. I think is really helpful towards getting these breakthroughs in your life, including with money. Right? Sometimes the best way to make money is to not focus on the money. Like, this is the hard part. Sometimes you got to like really focus on it, and sometimes you got to focus on other things, because the route to money for most people, for some people, it's very straight. There's some people who are just born with it. And I don't feel like I was that type of person. And for some people, it's very roundabout. Right. I could see like probably the main reason I make a lot more money today than I used to, like, 10 or 11 times it was years ago, is because I have a family. And if you'd asked me, what was the key secret for me to make lots of money, to get married and have kids, I would have thought that doesn't make any sense. But that's really been my motivation, my fuel to keep developing myself and get better as a person, as a parent, as a business person. So everyone's path is different. It's a kind of, I guess, again, the short answer is, if there's things that feel important to you, for whatever reason it is, just trust them. And there's a reason for it. You just may not know what it is yet until you get there.
So I got a quick question. If you get reps to put themselves into their things that they want to do, would that get them to perform better? Is there like that correlation there? Yeah,
well, we have a great rep who, even our head of sales or head of revenue, just saying like, wow, he's just like so good. He's getting better. And he's new to sales. He started with us at Predictable Revenue, I'm going to guess like 4 years ago, and he did kind of inbound, outbound SDR stuff for, I guess it's called a year. So maybe he's been an actual AE for, maybe it's 2 years actually. But on the side, he has a music production business. So again, he's someone that has a side business that's completely separate in a lot of ways. But the thing is, there's more cross learnings. Whatever you do, there's always things you can cross learn from. And he's awesome. Do you think that the production business could be kind of competitive for attention? Maybe. Could it be energizing and complementary because he's doing a bunch of other things and learning a whole other set of interests and skills that could be related to him as a person? I mean, that's what I tend to believe. Can it be distracting? Yes. Does it have to be? No. Can it be complementary? Yes, that's the goal. For the different things you do as a person, whether it's parenting, music, travel, to make you more capable and interesting and extraordinary as a person as a whole, so no matter what you do, including in sales, you're going to be a better performer.
One thing that I think you can do as a sales leader too, to like figure this stuff out. We do this thing, maybe we'll make something for this and give it out to people, but one of the things we suggest people do is do a talent audit. And when someone comes in, no one grows up and says, boy, I can't wait to work in sales. Like, it kind of just accidentally happens for a lot of people.
True.
So like I love on our sales team, we have someone that used to caddy in Miami. We have someone that used to, they make R&B songs on the side. Like, there's random passion things. It's that person that works at your company isn't just like an outlier. That's how it all is. When I was at Dime, we had a guy that was a musician who used to play every weekend. He'd be playing a show. We had someone that was, that toured with the Arcade Fire, and then his band broke up. So like, he was doing this to pay the bills and figure out what he wanted to do next. Like, you go down the list of a sales team, there's so many unique characters there with different skill sets. You're a manager and you want to inspire people and get them to be more motivated. Figure out a way to figure out how to get that stuff into their work, and they'll like working more. Going through the trudge of hitting 90 activities a day or whatever goal you set up as a manager is going to be a lot easier if they're doing stuff that they love during some of that. Maybe they're using like a video prospecting platform, grabbing a guitar and making a song for a prospect. We did that, by the way, in 40% of the meetings booked, doing an experiment with that.
I gotta try that though. Yeah, my guitar skills are, and I think too, it doesn't have to be something that they combine into their sales work. It could be just them talking about it with Like if you were a manager, maybe you just talk about it with them and you know what they do and it's interesting. Like there's so many people who think they're not interesting.
Yeah.
Again, I couldn't say if it's half or 90%, but so many people think, this isn't interesting, and they're completely wrong. You're completely wrong. Everyone's got those kinds of interests. And whether they're active, like you've actually done it, like guitar, or whether it's just something you've wanted to do. There's a guy I remember I asked, he collects change. He had like 200 pounds of change in a couple drawers, and I'm like, that's cool. Or, there's a whole story there. I didn't get to it, like how this started, where he gets it. And like everyone's got things that are fascinating about them. They may not realize it. But I think some people hold themselves back because, it's like, I'm not good at it, or other people don't care, or I'm too busy, or there's all these other reasons. So I think it helps. Again, I've seen it, even our own team or if as a manager, you can kind of like start the conversations around passions and projects that aren't at work and actually have some time to do that. That's why, and get to know them and vice versa. Then a lot more of that connection between people happens as well. Sharing personal details with other people and exchanging them and stories. That when we switched from in-person to virtual, a lot of that went away and needs to be brought back in some way.
One of the things I love that you're saying too actually makes me think, it's kind of a weird place for us three to talk about it because we're all men, but I remember I went to a woman in sales breakfast that Larry Richardson put on in New Hampshire. And one of the things she was talking about is that a lot of women actually sell themselves short a ton when it comes to looking for work. They don't talk about achievements and stuff. One of the things she also talked about is like finding things that make yourself interesting. And I think that we're talking about it for everybody, but I actually think that on the women's side, like there's so many cool things that I feel like you don't hear about as much from like people not selling themselves short. Like my wife, for example, thinks that she's boring, but like she's super good at writing. She's really funny. She writes great copy when she's not in marketing anymore, but she used to be. She writes great copy for stuff. She inspires me and gives me ideas all the time. Maybe you're someone that like this guy, Brian McCall, that I used to work with, had a really great Nikon camera, and he used to take pictures of bands. Like he'd go see a band live and take pictures of it. And then he'd send the photos to the bands, and then they'd like invite him there next time he was doing shows and stuff. So he had all these really cool connections in the music industry and a lot of cool stories. There's a guy at Gong, Danny Hudo, who used to be a roadie for like Panic at the Disco and a bunch of bands like that. Like there's all these cool, unique life experiences that you could splice into your prospecting and use to be interesting with people. And like if I find a prospect that's a CEO and maybe they like, you look on their Facebook page and saw that like they like a band that you worked with, or I'm just going down the list of different things you can take in life and splice it in. You got to find something that's interesting. I think a thing that might be true too, Aaron, that you're talking about right now, especially, is right now is a good time to get into some new hobbies if you don't have many.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, there's never been a bad time, but this is an especially good time.
And if you've
never been a better time.
If we are commenting girlfriends, I would like to say mine is great. She's amazing. What else do you want me to say? She's phenomenal.
It's the thing is, if you're a sales leader listening to this, you have to find a way to don't be the man shutting down rock and roll. You know what I mean? Like figure out a way to get people to like talk about themselves more. We're in a place now where there's so many companies where reps are robotic. They're sending templates. They have sales scripts. They can't go off.
They're clocking in, clocking out.
If you go back to like 1920 and look at door-to-door sales, the way that they scaled sales pitches is you'd walk up to a door. The only thing that you'd have to personalize would be things you might notice in their yard, a car, a piece of technology. You knock on a door and you read a script. And when the cold calling was first invented, all they did was take those door-to-door scripts and start doing them on phones. And then when email came out, they copied and pasted those scripts and made them into emails. LinkedIn Messenger, same thing. It's basically happening over and over again. The thing is, so many more things are now there and available that you can find about people. And so many more things are available that you can get into that you can talk about. Business has changed a lot. It used to be that like professional life was completely different from your home life, but things like smartphones have ruined that basically, because like I have work emails, work calls that I'm on, Slack, all this stuff is on my phone, and I might be on a hike with my wife or on a bike ride and I have to answer these things. But like that overlap gives permission to let that part into your work life.
Yeah, it's a blessing and a curse. I think too, that's why, at least one of the reasons there's more burnout is it's like a lot of people haven't had to practice boundaries between work and home. And I mean, I've been remote for 10 years or more, and with kids the whole time. So I know, like, it's still hard. I was late, right? 15 minutes to this because my 3-year-old was just so attached. And at that point, for an interview, I'm not going to kind of like push her off. And at that point, she's going to cry. And, I appreciate like being flexible on start time. And I think people just need to they're practicing this. How do I navigate these boundaries? And when I'm like working and focus there versus maybe with like friends or my wife, or if I have kids. And there's a lot of people where this is all new, and it's going to take, months and months or a year or 2 years to kind of really get into more rhythms that way.
So one thing go ahead. Sorry.
Speaking of which, we'll have to wrap soon because I've got a board meeting here shortly. I think
that's okay.
Started later.
Yeah, that's okay. One last question I wanted to ask you before we wrap up. How do you take these passions and figure out the right balance of them turning into motivation and relatability without it turning into like, this person's making this a distraction from doing like actual work and getting stuff done?
Well, that's a good question. I think a lot of it just comes from when you're, as much as you can, kind of like feeling and speaking, I would say from the heart, things that feel real. And we all do things that are kind of honest that way. And we all do things to get attention, and whether we see it or not. So when you're doing things to get attention, just to kind of hook people's attention, you're going to get toward that distraction. When you do things that are like really from the heart, you're not. So a lot of it's like kind of trial and error, and like just, again, for me, it can be over the course of months and years. It's all a question like finding yourself, like who you are, what you want to stand for, what you're interested in talking about, who you want to work with or not. And that never stops, right? Because life never stops changing. So there's not an easy answer, except probably just continue to talk to your family or your coworkers or prospects, and can be open for signals or feedback that something's not helping.
So one last thing, I guess. Do you want to plug anything since we're on here? Like, do you want to tell anyone about anything you're working on?
Yeah, I'm in my mind. I'm thinking, okay, the next book I do is going to be one on unique genius. So is that saying I'm going to do it? Yeah, I think there's some space for some. We'll see. Because again, I think the whole topic of diversity is so important to me too. We have a very diverse family with kids, biological and adopted, and races and ages. So I'm not sure yet. I would encourage everyone to try this kind of, we call unique genius call, if you're a company or friends or some circle of maybe it's like 5 to 12 people to get together and to kind of talk about these side projects and help each other accept them and encourage them and take some steps on them. The one thing I would, I'll plug is the Impossible to Inevitable book, the one I did with Jason Lemkin you mentioned. It was updated, and it's still like the best. Like whenever there's entrepreneurs and start people and people want to do businesses and we were trying to figure out how to grow their income, and like I just keep going back to say, wow, it's in that section. It's in that section. It's in that section. It's like it's so much of it. Everything that's not unique genius is like in that book. Like everything in my head that's a value pretty much that's related to making like businesses and making money is in that book for now. I'm not going to do I don't see doing another book like that. I just, but I just want to be very different if it's unique genius or not. I don't really feel about parenting quite yet, but yeah, the Impossible book I would send you to at this point, from impossible.com. It's a good landing page for it.
Well, that's great. Aaron, thank you very much for being on. I feel like we learned a lot actually, and you're so wise. I just wanted to be quiet the whole time and just let you talk for the whole time.
Blah, 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 blah. But yeah, well,
it was great having you on. You were great. Thank you very much for being on.
Yeah, no, thanks. Appreciate it, guys.
Holy crap. Aaron Ross, dude.
What?
He's so zen. Like everything he says is wise.
Yeah, he's a guru. He's a legit guru.
He's a living legend, basically. So what I want to do is I want to bring home what Aaron said a little bit for sales leadership right now so that you're listening to this and understanding it. Couple things. Reps miss quota a lot of the time. Biggest reason reps miss quota is because they might have external factors like stress going on. It could be environmental. Maybe they have something going on in their life. Some of them obviously don't work hard and stuff. If you want to motivate someone, you need to find a way to get their passion into their work. And it might sound kind of fluffy and millennial and all that stuff. And maybe you're thinking like, I don't care. In my day, I just sold and got hit by books by my boss. Like he beat me with a phone book. We're not telling you that like you have to change, but we're saying that this is what's happening today. If you want to motivate, all we care about at the end of the day is results, right? Like we want our culture to be good. We want to set a good culture for our sales team, but we also want to have results. To motivate and get your reps out there to do things, find ways to let your reps put themselves into their prospecting and put themselves into their selling. If they're passionate about football, maybe they talk about football with a prospect or a deal that they're working in their pipeline. If they're passionate about music, maybe they talk about music. Maybe you let them try and experiment with prospecting where they do stuff with music. If they know magic, if they like writing, anything that they want to do, you find a way to give them a cookie crumb of enabling the thing that they're passionate about and splice that into their work life and they'll perform better. And by the way, it totally makes sense. It worked for me. Like when I was a BDR, I always hit quota. And one of the reasons I hit quota all the time was because I was able to do cool, fun, creative stuff when I was prospecting. I liked making music. I'd make music for prospects and send them to them. I liked making videos, and they would let me go grab a camera and just film goofy videos sometimes and put it on the marketing channel for stuff. Like I do that here at LeadIQ now. Like this show is actually a good example of this. Find a way right now to enable your rep to do something that they're passionate about and splice it into their work life. And you're going to have a happier employer. You're going to have someone that attacks their job and wants to do well. Aaron said it best, and Aaron's done this talking with other sales teams all over the world about this. So like he's finding something that's going to be the next wave of how sales managers are more successful in getting their reps to exceed quota. Do you have anything to add, Rishi?
No, I think you did it perfectly. Why ruin a perfect ending?
You know, it'd be a perfect ending, Rishi, if you just pack your things, put it in that cardboard box and get out.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay.
Circle.
Okay. Hey, there's no reason to be upset. Everything's great. Thank you, everyone, for joining. One of the things that we're going to put together for you is we'll put together a template that you can use for a talent audit, and we'll send that to you, and you can take a look at that. I think that sounds like a cool asset thing that we can do to help you figure out what your reps are good at, and you can build into something in your curriculum when you're onboarding your new hires and existing hires so that they're happier at work. Hopefully this was helpful. Thanks again to Aaron Ross. Everyone go check out predictablerevenue.com. He's got books you can check. Look up Aaron Ross on Amazon. You can get all his books that he has. And if, Rishi, you want to plug anything, too bad. We're ending the episode. So see you later.
Actually, got to plug one thing. Aaron Ross just hired me. So peace.